You know what's interesting about people who are really good with money? They rarely look the way we expect them to. We imagine someone with exceptional money management skills as obviously wealthy, constantly talking about investments, flashing expensive purchases, or obsessively checking spreadsheets. But behavioral economics research suggests something completely different. Many people with extremely high money management skills actually display subtle psychological patterns that don't always look like financial success at first glance. In fact, economists at the University of Chicago Booth School found that the best predictors of long-term wealth aren't income level or financial knowledge, but rather specific behavioral patterns in how people process decisions about money. And here's the thing, true money management isn't really about discipline or willpower. It's about how your brain is wired to handle delayed gratification, manage emotional responses to spending, and automate decisions so you don't have to fight yourself every single day. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you will completely change how you see financial success. Here are 10 surprisingly common habits often found in people with extremely high money management skills. 1. They barely think about money. The first one sounds contradictory, but people with exceptional money management skills often spend very little mental energy actually thinking about money. Not because they're careless, but because they've automated their financial lives to the point where money becomes invisible. Research from Cornell University found that people who automate their savings and bill payments experience significantly less financial stress and accumulate more wealth over time than those who manually manage everything. Their brains aren't constantly making micro decisions about whether to save or spend. They've built systems that make the right choice automatic. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for executive function and decision-making, has a limited capacity for willpower. Every financial decision you make depletes that reserve slightly. People with high money management skills understand this intuitively. They remove the decision entirely. 2. They experience physical discomfort with debt. Here's something fascinating. Many people with exceptional money management skills describe debt not as a financial concept, but as a physical sensation. They'll say things like, "It feels heavy," or "I can't sleep when I owe money." This isn't just metaphor. Studies using functional MRI scans show that for some people, debt activates the same neural regions associated with physical pain and threat detection. Neuroscientists at Stanford found that individuals with this heightened sensitivity to debt often grew up in what psychologists call high contingency environments, where actions had direct and immediate consequences. Their brains learned early that owing something meant real danger. Now, that's not comfortable, but it creates an almost unconscious drive to eliminate debt as quickly as possible. 3. They think in percentages, not dollars. People with high money management skills tend to mentally process money differently. Instead of thinking $50 saved, they think 2.5% of my monthly income set aside. Instead of $200 shoes, they calculate 8 hours of work. Their brains automatically convert purchases into either percentages of income or units of time traded. Research published in the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that people who naturally frame spending in terms of labor hours or income percentages make significantly more rational financial decisions. Why? Because it engages different neural pathways. The emotional response to "I want those shoes" gets interrupted by the analytical calculation, "Is this worth 2 days of my life?" This isn't a learned skill for them. It's how their brain processes the world. They can't help but see the percentage, the trade-off, the opportunity cost. Sometimes that's exhausting, but it creates a natural friction against impulsive spending. 4. They feel genuine pleasure from watching numbers grow. Here's where it gets interesting neurologically. Most people get a dopamine hit from spending money. The anticipation, the purchase, the new thing, that's normal brain chemistry. But people with exceptional money management skills often get that same dopamine response from watching their savings or investments increase. A 2018 study from the University of Pennsylvania used brain imaging to study financial decision-making and found that some individuals show heightened reward center activation when they see account balances grow, even by small amounts. Their brains literally find saving rewarding in the same way other brains find spending rewarding. This isn't about being cheap or depriving themselves. Their brain chemistry is genuinely giving them pleasure from accumulation rather than from acquisition. And here's the beautiful part. That pleasure is sustainable. The dopamine hit from buying something fades quickly. The satisfaction of watching compound interest work never gets old. 5. They experience analysis paralysis on small purchases, but not large ones. This one seems backward, but people with high money management skills often overthink small daily purchases while making large financial decisions relatively quickly. They'll spend 20 minutes researching which brand of coffee to buy, comparing per ounce costs, but then confidently invest $10,000 in an index fund without much hesitation. Why? Because their brains recognize pattern versus anomaly. Small purchases are patterns, repeated decisions that compound over time. A 2019 study from MIT found that people who carefully optimize recurring small expenses tend to build significantly more wealth than those who only focus on big purchases, because the small decisions happen hundreds of times per year. The large financial decisions, by contrast, have usually been pre-decided through research and planning. Their brain has already done the analysis. When the moment comes, it's just execution. 6. They feel uncomfortable with lifestyle inflation. Most people experience what economists call lifestyle creep. As income rises, spending rises to match. But people with exceptional money management skills often describe a psychological resistance to this pattern. They feel genuinely uncomfortable when their spending starts to match their income too closely. Research from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that individuals who maintain significant income-to-spending gaps, regardless of income level, accumulate wealth at rates far exceeding their peers. But here's what nobody talks about. This isn't always pleasant. They describe feeling out of place, like they're living below their means, even when their means have grown substantially. Their brain has anchored to a certain spending baseline, and increasing it feels wrong. Not morally wrong, just wrong. Like wearing shoes that don't fit. This creates social friction sometimes. Friends wonder why they still drive the same car. Family questions why they don't upgrade their house, but their internal comfort zone hasn't shifted just because their bank account has. 7. They treat future self as a real person. Here's something psychologists find fascinating. People with high money management skills display unusually strong connections between their present self and their future self. When they imagine themselves at 65, retired, living on savings, that person feels real to them, not abstract, real. Studies using virtual reality at Stanford's Virtual Human Interaction Lab found that when people interact with aged avatars of themselves, their saving behavior changes dramatically. But some people naturally have this mental connection without the technology. Their prefrontal cortex maintains vivid models of their future self, and that future person has a voice in present decisions. When they're considering a purchase, they're not just thinking, do I want this now? They're thinking, does 65-year-old me wish I had this, or wish I had invested this instead? And they genuinely care what that future person thinks, because to them, that future person is already real. 8. They experience buyer's remorse before buying. Most people experience buyer's remorse after a purchase. That sinking feeling when you get home and think, did I really need that? But people with exceptional money management skills often experience it before they buy. They feel the regret in advance. Psychologists call this effective forecasting, the ability to predict your own emotional responses to future events. A 2017 study from Princeton found that individuals with strong effective forecasting abilities in financial contexts make fewer impulsive purchases and report higher long-term financial satisfaction. Their brain runs the simulation. I buy this. I get home. I feel foolish. And they feel that foolishness now before the transaction happens. It creates a natural brake on impulse spending, not through discipline, but through accurate emotional prediction. 9. They have extensive mental models of financial catastrophe. Here's something that sounds dark, but is actually protective. People with high money management skills often carry detailed mental scenarios of financial disaster, job loss, medical emergency, economic collapse. They've mentally walked through these scenarios repeatedly. This relates to something psychologists call defensive pessimism, a strategy where people set low expectations and mentally rehearse potential problems. Research from Wellesley College found that defensive pessimists actually perform better in uncertain situations because they've already processed the anxiety in advance. For financially skilled people, this means they've already grieved the loss of income, already planned for the market crash, already figured out how they'd survive. It's not fun. It probably contributes to financial anxiety even when things are going well. But it also means they build robust emergency funds, diversify income streams, and avoid over-leveraging themselves, because they can vividly imagine what happens if they don't. 10. They feel guilty about spending on themselves. And here's the one that reveals the hidden cost of all this. People with exceptional money management skills often struggle with guilt around personal spending, even when they can afford it, even when they've hit their savings goals, even when the purchase is reasonable. Their brain has been so thoroughly trained to associate spending with loss, with failure, with choosing present pleasure over future security, that it's hard to turn that off. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Economic Psychology found that individuals with high savings rates often experience more guilt around discretionary spending than those who save less, even when their financial situations are objectively secure. They know intellectually that they can afford that vacation, that nice dinner, that new laptop, but emotionally it feels like betraying themselves, like breaking a promise to their future self. And here's what nobody tells you about being good with money. Sometimes it doesn't feel good. Sometimes it feels like denying yourself constantly, even when the denial isn't necessary anymore.
One brain says the present is certain, the future is abstract, optimize for now. Another says the future is inevitable, prepare for it constantly. Neither perspective has complete truth. So if you recognize these patterns in yourself, you're probably going to be financially secure. Just remember to actually enjoy some of it.